through my journey, met with different people that came in that were going to help me. And I'm not going to lie, everything did not work out perfectly. Certainly, I got taken advantage of in several different situations, several business situations. With YouTube, I've had people steal money from me. Welcome to the Shaw Strength Podcast. I am your host, Brian Shaw, and today I'm actually going to cover a topic that I received a lot of emails about, different questions and that type of thing. So as I have mentioned in previous episodes, if you have a topic or a question you want me to talk about on the podcast, you can email that in to AskBRIAN@shawstrength.com. So I was just going through some of the emails that we have received there, and it seemed like a lot of people had more business questions, and mainly with those business questions, they wanted me to talk about why I started the companies that I have and how I was able to do that and what my thought process was with starting those, companies and, their growth. And some of this type of content is what some of you have asked for. So I figured it would be a great topic to kind of jump into, because I haven't talked a lot about how I started my first, business and how things kind of progressed and grew from there. So it all started back in 2006, and 2006 is where I turned pro in the sport of strongman. Now, that term pro in my mind means that you are earning your income from the sport you are competing in. And when I turned pro, I was definitely not earning my income from the sport of strongman, actually far from that. But when I turned pro, I decided to start Shaw Strength LLC. So I formed that business, and what that allowed me to do was actually write off some of my expenses. So, my travel to competitions and, different gear that I needed to compete and those type of things, because I was earning some income and prize money and those types of things that I needed to then pay taxes on. So if I'm going to be earning money, I figured I would have a business to kind of filter some of that stuff through to try to help me out. And it was a smart move, but also in 2006, at that point, I talked to one of my friends about doing a t-shirt design for me. And it was just something, at that time, I wasn't sure who would want to wear one of the t-shirts or if people would want to wear one of the t-shirts. I definitely didn't have a website or anything like that, but I created my first t-shirt design. And ironically enough, it is actually a t-shirt that I'm wearing. If you're watching the YouTube version of this podcast, you can see the shirt that I have. We actually have ran it now as a throwback on shawstrength.com. I think we have some left in inventory, but I'm not sure that we're kind of redoing that run. It was just something that I brought up in a YouTube video, and some people had asked about possibly being able to buy the shirt. So that's why we did the run. But this shirt design is the first t-shirt design that I ever did with Shaw Strength. And at that point in time, I was working, full time and trying to train and then obviously getting into competing. And so when I went in to have this shirt printed, I wasn't sure how many of them I had to print. And I remember the minimum order was 24. And 24 was, at that point, certainly more money than I could kind of spare on the side. So I saved up for it. I had the design done and went in and got the shirts printed. And then from there, obviously, I kept some of them and, gave a couple out to my friends and my parents and that type of thing. And certainly was not selling them, but it was the start. It was the very, very start. And I kind of had a vision in my head and said to myself, you know what, this is the start. And someday people are going to get behind this brand and they're going to be proud to wear this because of the message that it represents. And at that point, I knew I just needed to work harder, and I needed to have accomplishments behind myself and behind the brand in order to help it grow. And so, I was kind of just put my head down and worked harder. But, obviously at that point, Shaw Strength was formed. And as I got into the sport of strongman, the next kind of business venture, if you will, was Atlas Stone sleeves. So I went to a couple of my first competitions and lifted the Atlas Stones. And for whatever reason, I kind of had somewhat of an allergic reaction to, I don't know if it was the concrete from the stones or something, but I kind of broke out in a little bit of a rash, which was not fun. And I also was always thinking about how I could do things better. And so I thought to myself, I also sweat a lot. So the combination of sweating, being hot, trying to compete and lifting stones never made a lot of sense to me. And also when my skin was having an issue with lifting stones and that type of thing, I decided that I wanted to make essentially something I could wear that would protect my arms and also give me a really good grip on the stones. And so I kind of did a little bit of research on what I could potentially make it out of. I at that point went and bought some leather, but in order to sew the leather the way I needed to, I needed a commercial sewing machine. So I remember asking my mom to go with me because she knew a little bit about sewing machines. She just had a regular one at the house when we were growing up to kind of fix our clothes and that type of thing. But went and bought this commercial sewing machine. And I think that my mom probably thought I was crazy at that point in time, buying this big, commercial sewing machine, which I still have to this day. And I sat down and through trial and error, I sewed my first pair of Atlas Stone sleeves, and I would essentially take them to training. I would sew some for my training partners. I would have them test them. I tested different types of leather. I tested, different, ways to make the sleeves that they would stay on better, this type of thing. And that process took me, probably through trial and error. I would say at least a year and a half, maybe 2 years. And finally I was really happy with, the stone sleeves that I made. And then I had different guys that I was competing against ask me to make them pairs. So I made pairs for a lot of different competitors, actually at World's Strongest Man. I mean, I had to custom make one for Eddie Hall because his arms were not super long, but his forearms were so big. So I literally custom made Eddie's pair, just like I had done for myself as well. And at that point kind of started selling them. So they were on my website. At that point in time, I had my first, shawstrength.com website designed. It was very primitive, but I had shirts on there, and then I had stone sleeves available on there. And then every single pair of stone sleeves that I sold, I literally custom handmade myself. So everything from, tracing out the leather, cutting out the leather, I would take it to be embroidered, and then I would come back and once I had the panels of the leather done, then I would sew them literally completely, package them up, and then ship them out. And so that's kind of where shawstrength.com kind of got started and grew from. And I would fulfill those orders. And this was something that I was kind of doing on the side still while I was working, training, competing, and doing all this other stuff. But I just had visions of trying to make that grow and get bigger. Now, getting a little bit further forward, I started adding more shirt designs, and, things started to kind of, I guess, gain some traction after, again, I had more success. I had more accomplishments. More people were paying attention to what I was doing, and I started getting more exposure as I did better with World's Strongest Man. So that was, magazines and, more online, I guess, articles and different things. Video content wasn't as big when I was first getting started with the sport. So, getting magazine articles was really kind of the bigger deal back then. And then things kind of started to transition from that point. And then YouTube came about, and I was actually one of the very first, or maybe even the first strongman to kind of start putting some stuff out on YouTube. And it was very, very primitive stuff. If you listen to one of the first episodes we did with the podcast, when my training partner Andy came in, we would actually film in training and then go, and his wife would kind of try to edit down the clips and put them out on YouTube. And so I kind of jumped on that really early. I think it was, somewhere probably 2008 timeframe when I started the channel. And that was a learning process all in itself. Very, very primitive, certainly not great at all. And then I had different people come in with that. I, through my journey, met with different people that came in that were going to help me. And I'm not going to lie, everything did not work out perfectly. Certainly, I got taken advantage of in several different situations, several business situations. With YouTube, I've had people steal money from me. I've had people, like I said, just take advantage of me. And I have learned from all of those different experiences and through doing a lot of different trial and error, we finally got to the point where, the YouTube started doing better and getting more subscribers and that type of thing. And that's kind of a whole process in itself. And it was, kind of a, like I said, a trial and error. It really was a trial and error, and that really helped. And then, of course, social media started and with Facebook and Instagram and all that type of stuff. And I've always been the type of person that just wants to be the same person on camera and off camera. So for anybody that has met me, in real life and an appearance, or, if they just see me out or I'm traveling or something like that, I would say that almost every single person out there, if they have met me or had an interaction with me, I'm just the same person from the videos. Most people say that I am bigger in person. I don't know if the camera shrinks you or what it does, but that I'm bigger in real life, but I'm also the same guy that they have kind of watched and followed and paid attention to. And at the heart of business, and I'm kind of jumping around to a few different things with YouTube and social media and that type of thing. But all of that, in essence, has helped to grow my business to where it is. And, through the process, Shaw Strength has kind of been the constant. So that's, more, t-shirts and fan merchandise and, pictures and posters and all of that type of stuff is shawstrength.com. And then from there, we have expanded now into Evolution Athletics. So Evolution Athletics is our supportive gear line. That is something that, since I got the sewing machine actually and started with the stone sleeves, I have modified my own equipment for competing in strongman. So it was always a trial and error type of deal where I would sit down and modify a piece of equipment, try to do it a little bit better. And so, over the last, I would say 10 plus years of, sewing and experimenting and doing those types of things and thinking about how products can get better, that's really what I wanted to do. It was kind of my end goal. Of course, I was, sponsored by different companies, and, that's a whole kind of different conversation, I would say. And I learned a lot from that, but I also learned that I had a lot of ideas on my own and things that I felt like I could do better. Not that I was necessarily being taken advantage of, but I gave a lot of ideas away as well. And I kind of have learned now, certainly, that I should have kept some of those ideas to myself. And, I have kept a lot of those ideas, and that's what Evolution Athletics is. And, I think the growth that we've actually had over the last 2 years, ironically enough, when this podcast is coming out, we just are celebrating our 2-year launch anniversary. So 2 years from when we started Evolution Athletics, and actually on shawstrength.com right now, we're running a 10% off sale. I know I haven't mentioned that in the podcast, but essentially we don't have any sponsors other than, my companies that we're funding this podcast from that. So, if you guys do want to check it out, it's just shawstrength.com and Shaw Strength is available there. Evolution Athletics is available there. And then the other company that we have on there is Undefined Nutrition. And that's another another company that I got into as well that has been a challenge. It's been a challenge. And anytime that you go into business and put the hard work into it, there's a lot more behind the scenes than meets the eye. So, as a business owner, one of the things that from the start of Shaw Strength, the start of Evolution Athletics, and definitely the start of Undefined Nutrition, there are hard decisions that have to be made behind closed doors. And being in the industry of, sports performance and sports nutrition and all of this type of gear, merchandise, etc., there are corners that can be cut behind closed doors. And there's a easy way to do things that's more for a quick profit. And then there's a harder way to do things. And there's sometimes hard decisions that have to be made that, potentially will cut the profit margin, but in turn, you will put out a better product. And for me personally, I have never cut a corner. And, anybody that knows me or has had business interaction with me will always know that I will do things the right way 100% of the time. And I will make the hard decisions. And, for me, the businesses that I have, I don't want to sit here and say that it's not about making profit, because if your business is not making a profit, you can't stay in business. But I would every single day of the week choose to put out a better product and have us make less of a profit margin, but know 100% that any customer of ours is getting the best product that they possibly can get. And behind closed doors, I'm willing to make those decisions. And I think it's a big part of the reason that, Shaw Strength has been successful. Because if you look at, clothing in general, shirts, that type of thing, even down to the shirts themselves, the type of shirt that we put out for shawstrength.com and for all of our clothing is very, very specific. It's something that we take a lot of pride in how we do every single thing. And I truly believe that how you do one thing is how you do everything. And that is very true when it comes to business. And so, we've always taken this approach that the best is what we're going to do. And we're going to figure out, from there, how we can do it even better. So, that's the approach that we've taken with Shaw Strength. That's the approach that we've taken with Evolution Athletics. And I think that everybody who has worn our gear, and the support belt that we started with is kind of our flagship product. And, it's the strongest belt on the market. It's the best belt on the market. And anybody who has worn one will understand why I'm saying that. We've kind of branched out and now done a sport belt, which again is, it's the best, right? We have cut no corners. And when you cut no corners, you put out the best product you possibly can. And so I am very proud of those products. And like I said, I touched on Undefined Nutrition, and Undefined Nutrition is probably an entire other story in itself. And being involved in the sports nutrition world as a sponsored athlete, I've kind of got to see behind closed doors, so to speak, how decisions are made and how several different companies that I've been involved with have been run. And this is something it's near and dear to my heart to make the hard decisions and do things the right way. Now, with that being said, that's not easy. A lot of times it's easier to make a decision where you can put out a product quicker and maybe not meet your label claims, for example, or have a product that's somewhat compromised. And with Undefined Nutrition, it's really something where I want to stand behind all the products that we put out and believe in them and know that they are the absolute best. But on top of that, for me personally, it's very important that I want to take the products myself. So maybe that's somewhat selfish, but I've had these ideas and dreams, if you will, to have different products. And now that I am 100% in control of Undefined Nutrition, we can do that. Now, with that being said, when you do things the right way, it's harder. It's much harder, and I'm learning that. I've learned a lot about the supplement industry and sports nutrition in the last 6 months, I would say. But as my team knows, as my wife knows, as everybody that's been involved with me with this company, there's been a lot of hard decisions, especially right now in the world that we're living in with supply chain and the cost of raw materials going up and that type of thing, where I have been told, hey, Brian, you know what, if you change up the ingredients that you want a little bit, this is going to be cheaper, it's going to be easier, potentially it's going to be faster. And if I'm not going to do it right, I'm not going to do it. And so we have not compromised at all. And in turn, it's made it where some of our products have been out of stock and we're waiting for the exact right raw materials to be in. And I wouldn't change that at all. And when all the products do come out, which will hopefully will be in the very near future, it's going to be amazing. And I know that, again, I'm going to be able to look myself in the mirror and say, hey, we put out the best. We did not cut any corners. We did not compromise. I understand that our profit margin is going to be down, but anybody that gets any of the products that we do, they're going to know and they're going to be able to see, feel, taste the difference in all of our products, and the products are going to perform. So when it comes to business and starting, I have always had visions of growing. I've always had visions of getting bigger, but we're talking about a process that started in 2006, and now we are in 2022. So, that growth, I mean, we're talking about now going on, 15, 16 years of initial, from the initial start of the business to where it is now. And a lot of growth has happened, certainly. But I also still feel like in a lot of ways that we're just scratching the surface and getting started with, Evolution Athletics. I think Undefined Nutrition, I think people are going to be very, very excited about that because, a lot of brands out there don't necessarily have that mentality of doing things perfectly and doing things the right way. They're more in business to try to maximize their profit and, potentially put out a product that's not as good, but they put a lot of marketing behind it, that type of thing. And especially in the sports nutrition world, that tends to happen too much. So I'm very excited about what we can do there. And again, it's in turn being able to give back as well. And so I think that, a lot of people in the past couple of years for sure have started to see, as, Evolution Athletics and Shaw Strength have grown and, as Undefined Nutrition has grown, we're going to be able to give back more to the sport and help things grow. And a lot of that is being seen now, I think, with the Shaw Classic, which started in 2020 and has grown a lot. And, this year we're making a big leap. We're going to the Budweiser Event Center. And I've had some very exciting meetings the last couple of days about the contest and what we're going to do there. And, that's all of these things are kind of a domino effect because we wouldn't be able to do the Shaw Classic if, Shaw Strength wasn't there, if Evolution Athletics wasn't there, if Undefined Nutrition wasn't there, and we weren't able to kind of draw from that to make the Shaw Classic possible. And also, I mean, even this podcast and some of the video content, that we do, a lot of that has become possible because the businesses are there and have grown. And so you kind of create that growth and then open new doors and try to keep going and growing in different ways. And so, it's kind of that uncompromising approach to business that I think has been able to separate me and, we'll continue to separate, the business that we do, because we will never compromise. We will never accept mediocre, for example. These are things that just will not happen. And maybe it's my competitiveness and my drive for the sport of strongman and, before that basketball, like how I've been involved in these sports. And, I know on the back end, if I'm working hard behind closed doors and putting that in, that my performance will be better because of that. So, when it comes to business, if I approach it with that same mentality and behind closed doors, I'm uncompromising and I put the work in and I make the hard decisions and do everything correctly, at the end, the outcome will be very good. And I think that's very important. And so that's kind of in a nutshell, if you will, it's kind of how everything has started. Now, I could certainly talk more about Shaw Strength or about Evolution Athletics or about Undefined Nutrition or the Shaw Classic, certainly. And there's just a lot of branches to what I do. But I think at the heart of it, it's wanting to grow, wanting to give back, wanting to be better, but being uncompromising in my approach and our approach. And my team is very much the same way, coming into this and, the things that my team and Carrie and, everybody has brought to the table has definitely helped that growth and, my crazy visions to come to life, which is amazing. And like I said, I still feel like we're very much getting started, which is even more exciting. So hopefully that kind of gives you, the people that are asked about, the business and why I started it and kind of my mentality with a lot of it. Hopefully I've given you some insight into that today. I feel like I'm getting done and I'm thinking in my head, gosh, I don't know if I covered everything I wanted to cover, but hey, you know what? It's great because we got the podcast, and if there's more follow-up questions or you guys want me to go into more detail on anything in particular, we have time to do that. We have more episodes to get into, and I can dive deeper into certain things if you want me to, or talk about different topics and that type of thing. But I hope this has given you some insight, potentially has helped anybody out that's thinking about going into business or kind of taking that next step in their life, whatever it may be. And if you approach it with a good attitude, you're positive, it's not always going to be easy. It's not going to be handed to you, and you're going to have to work hard, and sacrifices are going to have to be made. At the end of the day, it's really easy to kind of look back from where I am right now and say, hey, we're in a much better spot than when I started. But all of those years and, those hard weeks and long nights and sacrifices that have been made have helped to lead up to this point right now. And those things certainly don't stop. I think more of that is going to have to happen, and more hard work is going to have to happen in order to continue to grow. But that's what I love. I love the challenge of that. And I love putting in that hard work and seeing the rewards of that hard work, so to speak, come to life. So anyway, if you guys have more questions, like I said at the beginning, email them in to askbrian@shawstrength.com. And I think we're going to wrap it up there for today. I hope you all are doing amazing. For now, go out and be great, and we'll check you guys later.